Illegal migrants will get brand new council houses or even refurbished council houses as the Labour government is planning to repurpose them with your taxpayer money as part of its plan to close the hotels.
You want to come to England?
Yeah.
Why?
Because here I don't have home.
Do you think that they give you money in England?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, but I think they are give me England. They are give me money. You can help me anything. I can need you. Maybe you.
Well, he's not wrong, is he? Let's be honest, he's not wrong. That's all while 1.3 million British families languish on social housing waiting lists, many of them tax-paying working people, veterans, family who've paid into the system their entire lives. To put this in perspective, Hackney has over 8,500 households on the waiting list for council housing, with some of it stretching to 15 years for a 2-bedroom, 17 years for a 3-bed, and up to 32 years for larger family properties. Yet they have signed up to this pilot scheme. So without a shadow of a doubt, illegal migrants will jump the queue and be put before British people. It's not even arguable at this point. It's policy. This entire scheme is costing the taxpayer, you at home, £500 million, 500 million quid of your money into a pilot scheme that's got around now 200 councils sniffing around for a bit of extra cash. This isn't going to end, is it? This is an incentive because the small boats will keep on coming when they hear news like this. 194,000 illegal crossings under Starmer's government alone. The bill for hotels has already blown up to 2.1 billion in a single year, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And ministers squirm and say new council homes won't be used for asylum seekers. But this scheme's own purpose is to close hotels by moving them in to refurbished stock funded by the Home Office. So it's true, isn't it? It's literally there in black and white. It's not compassionate. It's betrayal of the British people. It's telling law-abiding British citizens that you are not our priority, all because they haven't got the gall, successive governments, by the way, to deport people who have illegally broken into our country. And now you're at the back of the line. Frankly, it's a disgrace at the bare minimum.
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
Let's get the thoughts of my panel here tonight. Journalist Jack Hadfield's joining me, senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley's here, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and we've got a special guest joining me tonight. John Rudat, international journalist, is also on the panel. Jack, I want to start with you again on this because you have been to so many protests. I've been to a few of them. I've bumped into you on a few occasions, of course, Jack. People are furious. They're furious enough that migrants are being moved onto military bases. That's bad enough. But now that they'll find out that British people will be at the back of the queue while councils spend money not housing British people, but housing illegal migrants instead.
Exactly. It is just really a spit in the face of every British citizen who is on the council housing list, and even just looking to buy a new home to begin with. Younger people will find it impossible to buy homes because the housing prices have shot up so terribly. There is a two-pronged screwing going on here. Firstly, obviously, people who are waiting on the social housing list for forever will get bumped down to make room for these illegal migrants. And even in London and so on, our capital city, around 50% of social housing is headed up by somebody who is foreign-born already. And then number two, as we've seen at the protests, putting the asylum seekers into houses where you don't know where they are is actually worse than the hotels already. We saw each other at Crowborough just a couple of weeks ago, and obviously that's a military base there. The problem of putting them in military bases and hotels right now is that they're allowed to roam around the community. Everybody I spoke to at Crowborough said it would be a far better situation if they were in, for example, former military bases or camps of the like, but they were locked in, they were held in there, they weren't allowed to go around and terrorise the community. That's the issue, that they're allowed to roam around and commit the sexual assaults, rapes, obviously, that we've seen. So actually now this is even worse. I think Orla Minahan from the Pink Ladies has said, the thing with hotels is, and the military bases, while they're allowed to move around, you at least know where they are.
Yeah, that's
when
true.
They're being spread around into these new council stock, you won't know where they are, and they're already in HMOs in some parts of the country. This is going to disperse them, spread them out. So you may be able to avoid a hotel for now, but now they could literally just be anywhere.
They could be living next door to you, right? And you will not get a say in it. And you will be paying for it. It is an absolute disgusting disgrace. It is spitting in the face, Ellie, of British people who have, not asked for this, by the way. They have voted time and time again for governments to get on top of this issue. There is simple solutions. The government are dragging their feet on it. And they say they're trying to stop the drag for people coming here. This is an incentive to come to Britain.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, last year, boat crossings went up 13%. Last week, Shabana Mahmood admitted that they will not fall down, that the numbers will not fall this time next year. They can't say a single gang that they've so-called smashed. She admitted...
Rishi Sunak smashed more gangs, by the way, and it wasn't even his headline policy.
And also, she admitted that migrants are coming over and landing in the UK and going, well, which hotel am I being sent to? And this is not there's no de-incentive to come in if you know that there will be a nice refurbed council home for you. I think the really important thing that actually, when the story first came out, that the scheme was happening, that Reform council chiefs actually wrote to the Home Secretary at the time and said, this creates a mentality of them versus us. It sows division and resentment against these migrants. Of course, many of them actually are fleeing war and persecution, and if they get their claims accepted, then absolutely fine. But it creates a real division between communities. It's not helping anything at all.
It does. Benjamin, Ellie's absolutely right. It is divisive. It is wrong. British taxpayers shouldn't have to fork out for illegal migrants to come here to be put up in social housing that many people are waiting half of their lives on.
Well, British taxpayers absolutely should pay for refugees. We have a long, proud history of helping people fleeing atrocious situations, most famously with some of the Jewish people that came here during and after the Second World War. We should help some people. The numbers are too high, that's clear. People coming across in boats is an abuse of them, let alone anyone else, because they put themselves often into modern slavery. But the idea we shouldn't help someone is wrong.
Should they be put ahead of British people on social housing?
You claim
is that what Labour should stand for?
You claim the figure of £2.1 billion a year for hotels. If changing it to housing and former and unused military bases cuts that cost, then that is eminently sensible policy.
Can I just say, it won't actually cut the cost, because when the military barracks were announced to be having migrants there, they admitted that it's going to be more expensive than putting them up in hotels. And Downing Street accepted that and go, well, at least it doesn't look as bad.
Yeah, it's optics, right? This is not good optics, by the way. John, you're an international journalist. You've seen parts of Europe that are struggling with this crisis. What is the feeling amongst other European countries?
I'm noticing something very interesting with this case in particular, and I'm seeing that why aren't we sending the money, at least, to expedite the processing of this asylum requests rather than spending it unnecessarily on building grants for these new locations. I think it would be much better served for the migrants, putting the migrants first, to better assimilate them into this culture and to stabilize them economically so they can actually work, because they can't work when they're on asylum.
Yeah, I just want to read this out, this comment here from Robert Patterson. I don't think it's the famous actor, just to be clear.
What a scoop.
But great name either way, Robert. Alex, here in Brighton and Hove, I was on the social housing waiting list for 19 years before I got a flat. Loads of people I know have been waiting more than 10 years. Opposite my flat on Hove Lawns, we have loads of homeless camping out. Now the left-wing council want to put illegal migrants before UK residents. Then they wonder why we get annoyed and call us racist for objecting. Please. Plus, we have been denied elections twice now. It's a perfect storm brewing. Happy Rob in Hove. Jack, it's damning stuff.
Yeah, it really is just atrocious. Yeah, I think, the government does need to focus on deporting most of these people to begin with. I think, frankly, there's lots of things that they can do. One thing is human rights legislation, which means that you can't lock up the asylum seekers to begin with. You can lock up the people who are being ready to, who are about to be deported in these detention centres, but you can't do it while they're just looking for asylum to begin with. I think we should make it a rule so that if you come to this country illegally, you should not be allowed to claim asylum. You could, if you wanted to claim asylum, you could go to the British Embassy in the country that you are and then work through the system there. But frankly, I completely disagree with you, Benjamin. I don't think the British people need to take these.
Should go to the local embassy, which would mean you'd have 10 times as many, 100 times as many. How does that make sense, Jack?
Well, it's clearly, frankly, we shouldn't be taking these people in to begin with. But if they were, if they were wanting to do it legally, again, they should not come into this country on small boats.
What is the legal route for someone
overall, generally, I don't think there should be a legal route.
You're in Khartoum right
I don't think there should be a legal route at all.
What's the legal route?
But I don't think there should be a legal route. Frankly,
there should be.
For what there is now, of course. But
I think there's actually quite a simple solution that both Reform and the Tories have put forward, which is if you come across here on a small boat and you are an undocumented illegal migrant, leave the ECHR, detain them. If they absolutely, if they have a claim accepted, absolutely fine. If not, deported. And by the way, if that news got back to Calais, you'd see the numbers fall pretty quickly and we wouldn't have such a problem.
John, when you go to Germany quite a lot, do a lot of reporting there, what kind of division is it creating in Germany, for example?
Honestly, it seems to be the manifestation of modern-day segregation. I'm seeing a massive divide in the consciousness of the public in their sentiment towards these migrants, and these obvious mishandlings of money, of the taxpayer money that they're paying, their hard-earned money, and these economies aren't strong. They're going down the drain. All of that money is seen going into programs like these, and the taxpayers aren't getting proper justification. They're not listening to their authority and feeling like their work is getting taken care of and their work is getting respected.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? You pay your taxes. You pay a lot of money in your taxes. You pay that to the government, who are funding this pilot scheme. Then you pay it to your council, who are also taking part to get money from the government that they've already paid for, right? They are now going to prioritise those illegal migrants over people who've waited all their lives possibly to get on some of these council waiting lists are 100 years long. Westminster, for example, right? It is disgusting. There is no justification, Benjamin, for a government to spend money for migrants to go into social housing first, right? That's the worst case scenario here, is to build or refurbish or put people into houses that British people should be getting first.
Well, you're trying to punch down. I mean, the reason that there is a massive long list of demand for council houses isn't because of something that happened in the last 18 months or even the last 5 years.
I'm not saying it is.
For years, councils, Westminster Council until very recently was the safest Tory council in the country. It is one of the richest, which is why it had the lowest council tax, and they had no interest in building council houses.
You're saying, Benjamin. You're not answering directly what I'm saying. Why should an illegal migrant get ahead of somebody who's a British citizen who deserves to get that house first?
Well, first of all, this is putting money into those council houses to refurbish them, which will be a good thing in the long run.
But British people won't be getting them.
The real problem.
British people won't be getting them.
I won't be lectured to by people that support right-wing politicians that let veterans sleep on the street.
Is that the best you can do, Benjamin?
People that have
is that
let
really the best argument
vulnerable
you've got?
people in this country have been put aside for years because no one wanted to invest in council housing, while there is an elite that has creamed off the top for themselves. Those are the people we should be holding accountable. The tax evaders and the wealthy that don't want to pay their fair share.
Well, I'm glad to see we've got Zach Polanski on the panel tonight.
I've got a few more teeth. In fact, I've got too many teeth because my wisdom are coming through.
John.
Might I add something? Benjamin, I hear you out, and you bring up some strong points worth for consideration in regards to how this money is getting handled. I mean, you said it yourself just a second ago. You're worried about elites taking advantage of this entire process. My worry is that the governmental oversight from this money won't be properly handled, and it'll go into the pockets of private contractors and won't actually go to housing. Do you have a recommendation or a plan or an idea about how we could make a governmental oversight program for this exponential amount of taxpayer cash going into this project?
What's your plan, Benjamin?
I mean, look, any spending of government money should be transparent, but really, £500 million is the tip of the iceberg to what needs to be spent on council housing and property, building properties, full stop.
For illegal migrants, I guess, Benjamin, if you have it your way.
Well, for British people and for people that we take in to help because we're a decent compassionate...
200,000 of those alone at the moment under Keir Starmer. I mean, we couldn't build enough social housing to just fill the illegal migrants in those houses at this point in time. It's absolutely ludicrous. Look, a government spokesperson said this: the vast majority of social homes in this country go to British nationals, and priority is given to local people who need it most. People who arrive in the country illegally or migrants on student or work visas cannot access social housing. Work is well underway to shut every asylum hotel, with more suitable sites such as disused military bases coming on stream to ease pressure on communities and cut asylum costs. We're working closely with local councils and property partners to speed up delivery.